Irfan Loan, is 370 now a closed chapter? Will Naya Kashmir be all about peace, prosperity and development, sir?
Mr. Garo, let me clear. From day one, since decades, we are witnessing betrayals after betrayal. Kashmir is a saga of betrayals. Let me tell you, it's not the first time we have seen such a erosion. In 1953, the Prime Minister of the J&K, Sheikh Abdullah, was arrested. And later on in
Supreme Court ने आज फैसला दे दिया. In India, Supreme Court is Supreme Court in its wisdom, and it's a constitution bench. It has decided. I know the history, sir. This is not a history class. Will you live in the past or will you live in future? Will you live for a prosperous future?
See, Mr. Gaurav, you are a very learned person. I know you are alive of the law. Whatever the Supreme Court says, we all agree that it becomes law of the land. But earlier also Supreme Court held in Sampar Prakash judgment, Honorable Supreme Court held that Article 370 is a permanent feature. Nevertheless, Bharatiya Janata Party kept in its agenda, made a movement that we are going to abrogate it, and ultimately they did it. Likewise, today, if the Supreme Court has given a stamp on the 9 August decision, it doesn't mean that we cannot just fight politically. We cannot make a movement for a struggle for restoration of our rights. That is not only confined to 5 August, but what happened? We want pre-53 position. We are
you will continue
we
to live in the
our
past.
Own Prime Minister,
several generations have been destroyed. You intend destroying more generations for what?
It's not.
For
it's
your,
not,
for,
no,
for
no.
what? For your political
please,
shops to flourish. RP Singh. Several leaders in Kashmir are now saying
please
idea of India has been lost.
Please try to
Gandhi's
understand.
India has lost. RP Singh.
Gaurav, problem with these people is that for them 370 was a tool for a separate state, for a separate Islamic state, and they kept this on with in people's mind, in the Kashmiri mind, that from 370 we'll go for a separate state, and from separate state to Islamic state. This was their agenda, and then they understand that they have failed miserably on that. People of the state have seen what happened during their cause of the separate state, how militancy grew up, how people couldn't get jobs, how state was economically weakened, and how things have changed in the last 4 years. People have seen that also, how tourism has increased, how people's participation in the administration has improved. Give me a second, Gaurav. And also how terrorism has reduced, how killings of the people, how the killing of the policemen have decreased.
So, but you made a very important point that the Islamic State, that these people are still fighting for an Islamic State of Kashmir. Irfan Loan, before I bring in Mr. Ved, quickly want to respond to this limited point.
Unlawful Activities Prevention Act is there. Just yesterday, before we lost a police officer to bullets, how can you say after the 370 was removed, things turned to be normal? Kashmir is still abnormal. There is disturbed area.
If you want to live in 1953, things will be quite abnormal. You're absolutely right on that account, but I want to quickly bring in Mr. Ved. So time today is a little limited. My request is, Mr. Ved, is this the, perhaps if not the last nail, but an important nail in the coffin of separatism? Or are some mainstream leaders now parroting lines that were earlier used by separatists?
Yes, Gaurav, it's a historic judgment today given by Honorable Supreme Court, and I think it's a clear message to breaking India forces and those who were working at the behest of enemy nation to take the Jammu and Kashmir state towards separatism and ultimately breaking it from India. And I think Supreme Court, the honorable judges understood this, and they have upheld the move by Indian Parliament led by Shri Narendra Modi. And I think this should be a last nail. People will continue to play their politics. Different political parties will play their political games. But I think it is definitely a big blow to separatism.